The Hog Sty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of the hogsty.com.
Hey everybody, and welcome to a Dallas Week episode of the Hog Sty. Sean's not here, so this is Alex filling in as host. I'm going to try and do my best job, because I hope that the players do their best job trying to fight our arch rival, the Dallas Cowboys. But I have my two other co-hosts with me, Steve and Jamal. Guys, gotta try and get the energy up, gotta try and get excited because it's the Cowboys, right?
It's freaking Dallas Week. That's right. You know, I think the Dallas Week thing has lost a lot of its luster. You know, even from
right
5 or 6. Yeah,
just
period, it has. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it just has, because, for a variety of reasons. But still, at the end of the day, no matter what else happens, I want to beat Dallas. If we have to go 1-15, I want the one to be over Dallas. And so it actually does mean something to me. In spite of, it's a little, we're a little lackluster nowadays, in Redskins fandom. But I want to beat Dallas.
Yeah. And Jamal, what about you?
Yeah, I'm about to say, you kind of take the sentiments of a lot of fans. Truth be told, everybody still internally hates losing to Dallas, regardless of, how you feel about the team itself. You do not want to lose to these guys. And truth be told, and everybody that's listening, you all know, no matter how you feel right now, when Sunday comes around, you'll be amped up again, ready to go, trying to beat the Cowboys 45-0. So, as low as we may feel, or the emotional roller coaster today, as we record and as you listen, it will all go away come Sunday.
Right.
Absolutely. It's still our arch rival. And truth be told, let's be honest here, they haven't won any playoff games in forever either, okay? They get perennially overhyped because it's good for ratings. Yeah. And I understand that. But the truth of the matter is, they've largely been mediocre since they won their Super Bowls in the mid-'90s. So it's not like we're facing, the Patriots here, some 10, 15-time Super Bowl winner. This is a mediocre team. And so I'm just about sick and tired of overhyping Dallas and their arrogant fans and all of that. I'm tired of it.
I'm sick of that overhyping. I'm sick of the fact that I'm already seeing these dinks on the Metro wearing their, 20-year-old Emmitt Smith jerseys. And, they're beat up to hell Cowboys hats. And, they just grew up in, PG County or, Silver Spring or, they're just a bunch of D.C. suburbanites who, parents hated them, so they started rooting for the Cowboys. That's what it is.
I would say basically the fans who've never been to Dallas. Yes. Who's from the PG County, DMV area, and refuses for whatever reason to root for the home team. Makes no sense, but, we got to deal with it. And it is what it is.
It does seem like a high concentration of them are out in PG.
I have spent a lot of time in Dallas, and it's not my favorite place whatsoever. I think it's a crappy, confusing, overly spread out city with a bunch of really super arrogant old money people.
Yeah.
So I can do without
It's
that.
A lot of highways trying to connect a bunch of buildings, and then they call it a city.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're from PG County and you're rooting from Dallas, and you're rooting for Dallas, you need to turn your driver's license in or something. You need to not be allowed to be a Maryland resident and be a Dallas Cowboy fan.
Unfortunately, it is overcrowded with these individuals. So while I do support your statement, it will be hard to get accomplished.
Well, I bet you if we got rid of all of them, the crime in the whole D.C. area would just go down. That's my theory.
I think what we need to do is instead of the federal government focusing on, immigrants from Central America, let's focus on getting all the Dallas Cowboy fans off the East Coast.
That would actually be a hell of a campaign.
Forget about the overflowing the borders. Let's just get the Cowboys.
Yeah, we got a new not liberal, not conservative, just like a good rational proposal there.
Exactly. Alex, you and I are on the opposite end of the spectrum. We can both get behind a petition.
Yes.
Let's start a petition.
Yes. All right. Well, before we get that petition going, Steve, we have some Redskins stuff to talk about before we talk about going back to the Cowboys game coming up. I think the big story of this week has to be injuries. That Darius Geis came out of the game saying he felt great. He was happy to, have played that full game versus the Eagles, his first real NFL game. And then we hear Monday, he hurt his knee. And how they didn't know this during the game or right after the game is kind of a mystery to me. But
I can tell you because I've had this injury.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah, Darius Geis has a meniscus injury, and when they say meniscus, it always means a tear because the meniscus is a piece of cartilage.
Right.
And so originally, the original report was somebody that he sprained the meniscus. It's impossible to sprain the meniscus. So he has a meniscus tear, okay? And it really depends on where the tear is on the meniscus and how big it is as to what the recovery time is. The most of the meniscus cannot just heal itself because it's a piece of cartilage.
Right.
But there is a small part of it where if it tears there, then it will heal itself. That's what happened to me. But what they'll either do, if they have to repair it surgically, they either take the whole thing out or they sew it back up. And if they sew it back up, that's when it's a long recovery time. So that's what you're rooting against.
Right.
But most meniscus things, like 2 to 4 weeks is the optimistic side of it. But you can, it's just your knee hurts, it swells up. But you have sort of full range of motion. It's just your knee hurts. And so he probably came out of that game, adrenaline, all that stuff, knowing his knee was sore, but it didn't feel like anything popped.
Sure.
And so he probably didn't think anything of it.
Gotcha.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Gotcha. All right, well, I want to talk about the next injury, and I'm actually going to pose it to Jamal in a bit of a question here. Who are we going to miss more? Is it going to be missing Darius Geis for a few weeks or Jonathan Allen?
Well, you guys already know my answer based on our discussion post-game. Jonathan Allen is probably going to be missed the most. And the reason why I say that, we kind of seen what we got from Adrian Peterson last year. And, shoot, even in the few carries that he had in the preseason, you saw that, it doesn't take him much to get going.
No, he still has it.
He needs a lot of carries. Yeah, he needs a lot of carries to stay at least in the game. It doesn't take much for him to get going. But when you're looking at what happened now, we come to learn afterwards too. It wasn't all Jonathan Allen. Like, you were dealing with injuries from a couple of other players in the front seven. Really, I believe Caleb Brantley was hurt or playing hurt because I think he came. One of them came. It was another guy who got hurt as well, but came back in the game. But you were dealing with a couple injuries on the front seven in general. However, Jonathan Allen is your biggest piece. And the way that the run defense just dropped off dramatically over 100 yards and a half. The way it got, so bad so fast, you have to kind of actually beg the question, and Steve brought it out, like, is the defensive line as good as we initially thought? Because the whole thing is depth and young guys and talent and one of the strengths of the team. But when one guy went down, it looked terrible. So with that being said, I think Jonathan Allen is probably the one that you have to really worry about the most, and I think you'll probably miss him the most as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. I mean, in terms of depth on the defensive line, Alex, we went back and forth on this, I think, this week, didn't we?
Yes.
I mean, the fact of the matter is we've got 3 quality starters by anyone's estimation. But behind that, what do we have? We've got Caleb Brantley, who's just a guy.
Right.
Who's off the street, and then we've got Tanner Vallejo, who's literally off the street. Tim Settle, quality young guy, okay, but it's not like they have a rotation of solid,
No.
And Brantley got hurt. And so, I mean, at that point, then, your options are really limited. So I actually do think their depth is a little bit down, But I totally agree. Jonathan Allen's the biggest injury. Because, look, I mean, Adrian Peterson, frankly, right now, today, is probably a better running back than Darius Geis.
Right.
I'm all down with getting him experience and all
Big
that.
Picture,
that's fine.
sure.
Yeah, right. But today, Adrian Peterson's probably a better running back. So I actually think we'll probably be better off.
Right. And
right now, for the short term, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the other big story, of course, is that he'll be back in the starting lineup. But you mentioned, who was it, Taylor Vallejo, who we signed?
Tanner Vallejo.
Now, we signed him, a day or two ago. We also had another couple roster moves back of the roster, right?
Okay. First of all, we got Robert Davis back, thank God.
Right.
He's now on the practice squad.
Dumb move what they did there anyway, in my opinion.
Yeah, dumb move, but be that as it may. Greg Stroman was waived with an injury designation. What that means is if he clears waivers, which we'll know by the time you're listening to this, it'll be over and you'll know. If he clears waivers, then he reverts back to the Redskins IR.
Right.
And that's just a way the NFL has come up with to keep teams from
stashing,
like dreaming up baseball injuries and stashing them.
It's interesting because Stroman's actually very good at waving. I know that for a fact.
Waving, he's good at waving as players run past
that
him.
Was funny.
No, I was thinking more his fair catch ability.
Fair catch.
Well, that's true, yeah. So the Redskins waived J.P. Holtz, and Holtz got picked up by the Bears on their active roster.
Oh, really?
So he's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, he's gone.
That sucks.
They cut Darrell Williams from the practice squad, and we signed two guys to the active roster, defensive lineman T.Y. McGill and cornerback Simeon Thomas. Now, these guys are not brand new rookies, okay? McGill himself is 2015. He's bounced around a million teams: Seattle, the Colts, the Browns, the Chiefs, Chargers, Eagles. Chargers again. He's been around and around and around. 6 foot, 310 pounds. So he's an interior defensive lineman type. He's been on a couple active
basically
rosters,
here to fill the gap of John Allen from the back of the roster, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd maybe say more Caleb Brantley.
Sure, but we needed a body, is what I mean.
Right. And then Simeon Thomas is 2018 sixth-round pick of the Cleveland Browns. He spent time with Seattle. He's big dude. He's more of maybe a safety.
Interesting.
They have him listed as a corner, but he's 6'3", 200 pounds. And he has played safety, from what I understand. Don't know a lot about him, but I do know that he's played some safety from Louisiana. So
it's interesting how much this staff, and I don't know if this is the scouts or the coaches, they seem to like these bigger safeties. We've got a couple of them over the years. Or bigger corners, I mean. Sorry.
Yeah, of course, let's just hope that Simeon Thomas doesn't have to see the field in anything but special teams.
Right.
Because if he does, that's a serious problem.
Fair enough.
You don't want those. Like he's at fifth, sixth string corner. You don't need him. If he's in the game, like you just said, you're in trouble. It's either the injuries or the fact that somebody's in front of him just playing terrible.
Yeah.
So, and if he's the last guy, then you might as well pack it up.
Yeah, that's
frankly,
exactly right.
I think that would mean like 4 people are playing terrible if he's in the game.
That is
yeah,
true.
there's a lot of guys in front of him.
Yeah.
But that point is, that's what they did. So now the roster's back to full. It's kind of, I don't know why they pulled this stunt with J.P. Holtz. I don't really get it. I think that was dumb, but what's done is done at this point.
I think it had everything to do with Jordan Reed not playing, and they were just worried.
It definitely had everything to do with that. But you cut Robert Davis,
right?
Who's more valuable. Anyway, I don't want to rehash.
No. It makes no sense.
Holtz is gone.
C'est la vie, and good luck to him in Chicago until we play him in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Let's talk one last kind of Redskins thing. There was a lot of rumors that Trent Williams would be back this week in the lamestream media, as Steve likes to call them.
I've never said the lamestream media.
Well, serious question, Alex, because I truly don't know. Who if you know, who in the media was, or which outlet was reporting it?
I saw a couple different beat writers saying that they thought he would be back. I think Hoffman was one. But, it was those kind of guys who were,
Well, it really came from D'Angelo Hall. That's where it actually started.
That's true. I think it did kind of start with Hall, didn't it? Yeah.
D'Angelo Hall did his
remember
podcast last week. Yeah, that's when, because he's the one that said he'd be back sooner rather than later, and all the local outlets kind of picked up on it. It really started from D Hall.
Right. That's actually where it started. You're right. But anyway, Trent obviously not back, and we're recording this midweek, so I'm guessing he won't play this week if he's not back today. So
yeah, I'm sick and tired. I know what Jay Gruden's feeling. I'm sick and tired of talking about this guy personally. He's an All-Pro. Love him. Wish he was there, but he's not here, and I'm just tired of him. Personally, I think he's an idiot for doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, he's not here. He's not on the team. I'd rather talk about Donald Penn and Eric Flowers than.
I can't wait to hear about Jay and John Gruden's family dinners. When they're pitching, I got Trent Williams. Well, I had Antonio Brown. Ah, shoot.
Well, hey, John Green doesn't have much to talk about with the whole Antonio Brown mess. My God.
No, he dodged a bullet. Yeah, but okay. Well, let's go to why we're all here today, and that's talk about this upcoming game versus the evil empire, the fiends from Texas who don't deserve to exist, the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
They beat the Giants. Not that that says much, but they had a heck of an offensive performance by Dak Prescott. I think he had, a perfect quarterback rating or near perfect quarterback rating?
No, he had a perfect quarterback rating.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's not easy to do. We know that. You don't see those that often. Are we worried about this offense, or is this the Giants' defense? That's where I want to start this conversation.
Heck yeah, we're worried about this offense. I mean, look, first of all, I think it's safe to say that Ezekiel Elliott. I've made it.
You don't like Ezekiel Elliott. You don't like his contract. I know.
No. I don't like his name. I hate calling him Zeke.
Mm-hmm.
The contract. If you listened to It's Just Business this week, we talked about the contract. It's actually a very smart contract, believe it or not. But if you watch Dallas during the Ezekiel Elliott years, this offense runs through Elliott.
Sure.
Okay? Now, it didn't last week because he was on kind of a pitch count in terms of carries and whatnot, but he's going to be – the reins will be loosened more this week. And believe you me, what I think we're going to see is probably no restrictions on him, and he's probably going to get the 25 to 30 carries, all the rest of it like he did before, which, might be good, not bad, because, the method to stop Dallas in my book has always been stop Elliott and let the chips fall where they may. Which of course we've done that and lost before,
right.
So it doesn't always work. But, I think that may be the game plan in terms of Prescott. Well, we'll get to Prescott later.
Right.
So thoughts on that?
Well, it's going to be pick your poison in that backfield. Dakota and Ezekiel, both who have terrible nicknames, but they also have kind of bad real names. They're both talented in their own ways. I don't think Prescott's by any means an elite quarterback, but he can kill you with just finding open guys short and extending plays a little bit with his feet. He's very good at what he is good at. So you kind of just got to say, do we want to face that, or do we want to, get the ball run down our throats for like 150 yards? Which is better.
Well, here's the thing with these guys. Over the 4 years that we've played them, 16, 7, 3 years, it's about to be 4 years, but over the 3 years that we've played Zeke and Dak, primarily Dak, because I believe Zeke he's missed a game when he's played us. The issue with these guys is that we have trouble on the ground, and we have trouble stopping Dak make plays with his feet. Mm-hmm. And this is not just the case with him; it's the case with all mobile quarterbacks. When you look at Dak, he's kind of hard to contain for the Redskins for whatever reason. Play action kills them, bootlegs kill him, and he's able to elude the pass rush pretty easily at times against the Redskins defense. And I don't know. Again, Jonathan Allen is likely to be out, and I kind of think that the pass rush against the Eagles for the Redskins was just kind of a bad day. So I don't think they're as bad as they showed in Week 1. Even Casanova McKenzie's sack was at the line of scrimmage, so it wasn't like they were getting pressure in any sense. Like they weren't getting any.
No, they weren't.
I kind of think it was. I kind of think it's a little bit just of a bad day and a really good game by the offensive lineman for the Eagles. With that being said, it's going to be really key for. It's the pick your poison thing is legitimate, but at the same time you have to go out to key on both of these guys. And you have to execute in the pass rushes as well. So when that happens, you need this interior pressure to make to help these edge rushers out in a big way. And the edge rushers have to do a better job as well. Ryan Kerrigan was a non-factor, and Montez Sweat looked like he's
rough.
I don't want to be mean, but you get it. Rough. That's the nice way to put it. So these guys have to just do a completely better job up front. You're still playing a really good offensive line. One of the guys just got a contract extension off that, so you know how good he's playing and how he's valued there with the organization for the Dallas Cowboys. So with that being said, you just have to have a better rush up front and a better defensive line play in general, because it just was not up to par, and you're facing another offensive line and another running back quarterback duo who's gonna they're gonna have their way with you if you cannot establish the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the deal with Dak, in my opinion, this dude is a master at the short pass. I actually think he would play really well with Jake Gruden, if he had been a Redskin. Because the guy is a master of hitting the underneath receiver. He will dump off these passes all day long, if you let him. I don't necessarily think he's as good downfield, and I don't think he's, a big playmaker. He's aided a lot by the fact that they have this fearsome running game, but what he is really good at is that short dump off. So he will just, if you stop Elliott, Prescott, Dak can just, march you down the field West Coast style almost.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again, and it's like a death by 1,000 paper cuts sort of situation. Now, for those of you wondering, Elliott has played us 5 times, and I'm going to run through the results really fast. 2016, 21 carries, 83 yards. It's about 4 yards per attempt in game number 1. Game number 2, 20 carries, 97 yards. That's about 4.9 yards per attempt. He missed the first game for some reason in 2017, but ran for 150 yards on 33 carries. It's almost 4.6 yards per attempt. And last year, the first game was a game where the Redskins really held him in check. 15 carries, 33 yards. And then the second game later in the year, 26 carries, 121 yards. So he's had some big games.
I think that he served that suspension in 17. That's why. And that Alfred, in his place, Alfred Morris ran for like 130 yards.
Yeah.
And 2 touchdowns.
You're right. That's exactly what it was, Jamal. You're right. It was a suspension. Yeah. So that's what Elliott's done to us. It's. I don't know if it's mutually exclusive, because Jamal, you're right. The edge rushers, Kerrigan, Montez Sweat, and Ryan Anderson when he's out there, Casanova McKenzie, these guys just got to do a better job, period, dot, the end. They were all terrible, basically, against the Eagles. And, stopping Elliott does not mean you surrender your pass rush. They need to put pressure on the quarterback, and they need to stop Ezekiel,
right.
Both. And so this team isn't going to do very well if Ryan Kerrigan and Montez Sweat don't start getting some sacks.
I mean, pressure's what this team was always built for the last couple of years, and if they're not getting there yet, it's a long day.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is, we don't know. From what I understand, Fabian Moreau is back in practice, but assuming that he's playing, what I will say, and this is going to be hard, because Noah Manusky likes that 4-man, 3-man rush. He believes, and I don't necessarily blame him for his scheme. I kind of blame him for not adjusting, because Manusky is a guy who believes in his pass rush. He believes in his edge rushers getting home. He believes in his defensive linemen doing their job. What that means is he's not going to send that many blitzes to the quarterback. However, when you're playing these offensive lines who are pretty good and quarterbacks who can threaten you and challenge you, you might want to find ways around that and send in some pressure blitzes to get the ball out of their hand a little bit quicker when your cornerbacks are seemingly healthy and ready to go. Like I said, this is assuming Fabian Moreau's playing, so you have all starting cornerbacks and people in the secondary. They're all going to be on the field. You're going to need to take advantage of that, and I think adjusting towards that, if you're not getting home with your 4-man and 3-man rushes, you may need to just go ahead and change it up a little bit and dial up some blitzes that's going to confuse his quarterback, because he knows that you don't send that much pressure, and they can find ways around that.
Before I forget, injury report. This is Wednesday. The DNPs on Wednesday were Jonathan Allen, Caleb Brantley, Darius Geis, Colt McCoy, Monte Nicholson. Just why isn't Colt McCoy on PUP? But I digress. Quentin Dunbar limited knee, Fabian Moreau limited ankle, and then Jordan Reed, the never-ending concussion. From the Dallas standpoint, Tavon Austin's in the concussion protocol. He didn't practice at all. Tyrone Crawford, hip, DNP. Luke Gifford, linebacker, DNP. Zach Martin was limited because of a back. Darian Thompson, the safety, limited. Donovan Wilson, limited. They had a whole bunch of others listed as full practice. I'm not going to go over them. So the big one for Dallas, Tavon Austin with the concussion. Zach Martin with the back, but I would imagine he'd play. And then Tyrone Crawford. Those are the big ones. So that's injuries.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you guys want to switch over to our offense? Or do you have anything else about this?
If you look at what Dallas did to the Giants, okay, I don't think we're going to see that. Remember they didn't have Elliott, and so in the Giants game, Prescott was 25 for 32, 405 yards. The receivers went absolutely crazy.
Right.
Gallup and Amari Cooper just both went nuts. They both had over 100 yards passing. With Elliott back and kind of with a week of practice and everything, I'd be willing to bet they're going to revert back to what they've always done. Which is run heavy. And so I'm not sure we're going to see Prescott with 30 pass attempts again. So I tend to think it's going to go dip back kind of in the more traditional mold. And I'm not saying don't pay attention to Amari Cooper. Lord knows, he's a top threat. But I think that needs to be the focus.
I agree with you. And I also think that Dallas is a team that's going to take advantage of whatever the other team's weakness is. And you look at the Giants' defensive roster, that secondary is pretty easy to exploit. Not that ours is anything
our
great.
Secondary did,
but
ours didn't play well against the Eagles.
No, but
maybe I'm totally wrong.
No, I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying, but I think the Giants have a worse roster on paper in the secondary. So,
there's no doubt about that. Their secondary is just atrocious on paper.
Right. So I wonder if that plays into what happened last week. But, it takes a couple weeks to kind of figure out what teams are going to do each year. So we'll see about that.
And it's also important to note, and you guys kind of alluded to it without officially saying it, Week 1 is always the most overrated week to kind of assess any type of football anyway. So just to add on to it, you don't really know what you're going to get from the first week. Is you don't want to overreact, and you don't want to you don't want to overreact in both ways, negatively or positively, because you just don't know what it is. But with that being said, just a quick tidbit on that the offense and the Cowboys offense and the Cowboys defense. I'll be quick. I'm sorry, but the defense is what it is. Like we've seen that for 2 or 3 years. They've been building it. To be honest, they've done a really good job in the draft, and that's going to hurt them financially down the road. But they've done a really good job in the draft. So those guys should be taken seriously year in and year out because they have consistency, and it's nothing out of the ordinary with these guys. They've done a really good job building that defense. But offensively, it's something new when you're dealing with Kellen Moore, a new offensive coordinator. But you've seen the success that Dak had, and people just running wide open in that offense. It's not going to be like that every week, and that's what you have to really look at when you're looking at their offense is how good. And you guys already said it, but how good are they really versus how bad was the Giants' defense just that day? And truth be told, they're not that good. But I do believe they have some type. I do think Dak is developing into a solid quarterback, but they're not that good.
Yeah. All right, well, let's switch to the other side because we've kind of run over just talking about the defense. Not that I think we'll spend a ton of time on our offense because it's just that other side of the ball. The Giants put up some big numbers yardage-wise last week. I think they had 300 yards passing, 150 yards rushing, something like along those lines. Yes. I think that this, as much as everyone was kvetching about the Redskins' run game versus the Eagles, I think that this could be a get-right game for our running backs. What do you think?
I'm going to make a prediction right now.
All right.
I'm going to say we're going to run 55 runs out of the I formation.
55 runs out of the I formation? All right.
Isn't that what Gruden said it would take?
Which would be
Adrian
amazing because we don't have a fullback, so how are we running out of the I formation?
We're just going to make, Adrian Peterson's going to drop dead right on the field.
Right.
Oh, no.
No, I'm obviously kidding about that. But, shoot. The truth of the matter is this, though, about what the Giants did. they had 151 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm.
59 yards of that came from Saquon Barkley on one run. If you subtract that out, okay, what he really had beyond that one run was 10 carries and 51 yards. Is that right? No, 61. 10 carries, 61 yards, which is still good.
Right.
Not saying it's not good, but they didn't run. It wasn't like the Giants were running all over him constantly, and that's why they ran up 151 yards. So I think that the Redskins' offense can be effective at this. But I think the fault last week against the Eagles lay both with the running back guys a couple times, but I think the offensive line did not do a very good job in opening up rushing lanes early in the game.
And we just have not run well against the Eagles in like 5 years. Yeah,
and so I think Peterson is not going to miss reads, and so that's not going to be a problem. I didn't think Geis looked terrible, but there were one or two of them I thought he missed a read. But even Adrian Peterson isn't going to be able to do much if the offensive line does not do a better job opening up rushing lanes. And so if
we're not getting any push, then how many holes are going to really open up? That's the real key of the run game. Passing wise, again, the Giants put up 300 yards. They're obviously that's probably the strength of their offense still overall, even with Eli Manning kind of not being the great Eli Manning he was at one point. You still look at the Giants and think, well, they're a passing team because that's what they historically have been.
Right.
I will be curious to see how Terry McLaurin does in a second week now that teams know he's the deep threat. I'll be curious to see how that changes this week.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, or something, a storyline to follow, because when you look at Terry McLaurin, you kind of wonder, like, I mean, it was a breakout game. They really didn't respect him at all, and I don't know why they didn't respect him. Even after the first bomb that they threw to him, they're still giving him single coverage, and letting them go one-on-one with corners. And he beat him again. Overthrows happen, so you're not necessarily focused on that part of the game. But when it comes to McLaurin himself, like he beat him time and time and again during that game, and there's not going to take long for coordinators to focus on them. But what happens is when you I don't think he's not good enough to draw double teams just yet. He may get like the bracket coverage or something like that, or have somebody over the top of him, something like that. However, it opens up for guys like Paul Richardson, who is kind of like a technical receiver in a sense. And if Jordan Reed is playing, you kind of have your options. And for Case Keenum, that works out really good. And I think that McLaurin may have a game where he doesn't necessarily statistically put up the same numbers. It may be a drastic drop-off, but it's not in the sense that he's playing bad. He just may be getting keyed on a little bit more than he liked, but it's also going to open up the game for others, and it's going to be big for people to not have drops. Again, Mr. Paul Richardson, and these guys have to make plays, so it'll be interesting.
Well, first of all, that's what you're going to get from Paul Richardson. He's going to drop balls.
Yeah.
He's always done it. He did it in Seattle. That's just what happens. But in terms of what Terry McLaurin can do, the Dallas secondary doesn't scare me.
No, it doesn't scare me very much either.
I mean, their starters don't scare me. I don't think that it's a situation where they have somebody who can just – they don't have a Darrell Green or Deion Sanders back there who can just take Terry McLaurin out of the game.
Well,
now if they want to design some zones and whatnot to bracket him and make sure they slide safety help over so he doesn't just run post patterns free right down the middle of the field like the Eagles did, yeah, they might do that. But I don't think that they're just going to be able to flat out take him out of the game at all. I just don't think they're that good.
So one of the things that actually is important when you talk about the Dallas Cowboys secondary, I don't think there's going to be one person by themselves who can really stop Terry. That's not necessarily what happens with them. And this actually points to what the Skins do terribly for the past 3 years that they've been trying to correct. For whatever reason, they can't do it. And it showed his head again in week 1. they're excellent in communication. They play well together. And this is even before Chris Richard formerly of the Seattle Seahawks, who came to help out with the defense. This is before he even got to the Dallas Cowboys, and it's 10 times better with him there. Like, it doesn't matter if one person is not necessarily good enough to stop Terry McLaurin. These guys play primarily zone, and these guys play really good in their zone. And it's going to be hard for. I'm not saying that they won't give up like 300 yards on defensively, but it comes by pretty difficult sometimes. And with that being said, Jay Gruden kind of knows him. He has an advantage to an extent. He's known this team for 5 years now. He'll have some edge, just like the Cowboys have some edge on him. But I think that I'm just saying that to say that these guys are a little bit more sound, way more sound than the Philly defense, and I don't think they're going to be playing him the same, especially after watching the first game.
Yeah, look, I mean, this defense last year was a darn good defense. You know, they were 6th in points, they were 7th in total yards, 8th in yards per game. 5th in rushing yards per attempt, 5th in rushing yards. I mean, it's a quality defense. Don't get it twisted. I mean, they've got, guys like Sean Lee, Leighton Vander Esch, DeMarcus Lawrence. They make life really tough on opposing offenses. And so the Redskins are going to have to be able to do something about that. Their offensive line, I thought, was pretty decent on pass protection, considering they had Fletcher Cox out there last week. I thought Eric Flowers was pretty darn good in pass pro.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they just need to do a better job in the run blocking, of course,
and avoid penalties, of course.
Yeah, and avoid penalties. That goes without saying.
I don't know, with this offense, it doesn't go without saying.
Well, it goes without saying that they need to do it. They're not going to do it.
Right.
I mean, they're going to get a ton of penalties because that's just the hallmark of this team, as it seems. But I mean, it's going to be a tough week. It's tough sledding out there with a defense like this. There's no doubt about it. I mean, with the Washington Redskins, I think it always starts with the run game. This team always performs better if they can establish a run game early, and it works. That opens up Jay Gruden's play calling tremendously. Yeah. But if it doesn't work, it becomes really pass centric, and especially with Jordan Reed's probably going to be out again, I would assume. You've got these talented linebackers. It'd be a long day, so I think you have to hope that Adrian Peterson and company can get going early. That's, I think, their best hope to do well against Dallas.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I don't think there's anything I can really add to that. If Plan A doesn't work, I don't know what Plan B is going to be. So,
well, the other thing is, special teams. I'm talking about the kick and punt return game. We didn't really see Steven Sims and
Trey Quinn.
Thank you, Trey Quinn, in the punt game. They didn't really do much against the Eagles, but I do have high hopes for these guys. They did show something in preseason. If the Redskins can get a couple of these returns to be something less than total zero, it would make life so much easier. It really would. And, Dallas isn't all that great in special teams, okay? I mean, they were downright putrid in punt returns, last year, and kick return defense. They're not that good. And so, at least they weren't last year. They were 31st in kick return defense last year, for example. 16th in punt returns. They were 31st in punt returns, meaning, when they're returning. So I think, the Redskins can they have a chance to win the battle of field possession. The battle of
field position is what you're saying.
Thank you, field position, yeah. So that's a point to watch for. Those two returners have talent, especially Sims. I think Jay's got something. I don't want to go into Trey Quinn again.
Yeah.
So I think he's overrated. But point is, Sims at least ought to be able to do something. Yeah. So take that for what you will.
I will take it for what I will, because I want some good special teams play. You know that.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. Well, any final thoughts before we get into game predictions, or should we just do
Why isn't Colt McCoy on the PUP list? And if he was on the PUP list, then guys like J.P. Holtz and Robert Davis
would be on the roster,
or both. Yes.
I don't.
Why is I don't get it. Jay Gruden, what are you doing? It's just poor roster management.
I say he screwed this up from the very beginning, and we know where it started. But we're not going to get into that. We had our debates and disagreements last week, but it's been a trickle down effect. So now he's basically reeling, in a sense, to try and make these roster moves work. So it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I wish I could give you an answer. All right, well let's do this. We're at 41 minutes at this point, so we are past due for giving our game predictions. Okay. I'll go first since I'm playing host, and I don't feel good about this game. I feel better about playing the Cowboys than I would against playing the Eagles again, but I see this as kind of like a 24-20 loss.
Okay. I guess, is it my turn?
Either of you.
Don't forget to stick with your guys' season predicting things.
I don't think we have to, but
hey, don't crowd me on this, man.
Yeah,
it's good. You can't hold me to that.
If you call an L, call an L.
What if the situation has changed, though? That's the thing. What if it's changed? Yeah. But in this case, I'm calling an L. I don't see the Redskins winning this game. I think, in spite of my, earlier in the show prattling on about Dallas is mediocre, I do think they're the better team in this case. But I think the Redskins are going to play better. I think they'll be more consistent in this. Let's hope, at least. So I'm thinking this is along the lines of 27-24 type of game loss.
Well, guys, the fans need some optimism. They need somebody who's going to come in here, since you guys predicted losses, to be the guy who's going to give them hope, who's going to tell them that this game is going to be the one where everything's going to be all right, and that it's not as bad as we all imagine it to be. And they may be looking at me to be that type of guy, but I refuse to do it. Can't do it. Sorry. I know you guys were probably counting on it, but it's going to be a sweep tonight. I see the Redskins probably losing or likely losing to the Dallas Cowboys. It's going to be a rough one. Probably I say like 24-16 or 24-13. And it may be close early, but just the Redskins find a way to fumble it towards the end. Not literally fumble it, but just fumble the game in terms of being close and in control. Now, I hope I'm wrong. And you guys can find me on Twitter at _AYYMUAL to tell me how wrong I am if the Redskins do find a way to win. But yeah, I see them losing.
You tried to sandbag us at the beginning of
your he was pulling a little bit of a Steve there by doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's usually my move.
Yeah. I had to set it up really good. I felt that it was gonna deliver really well, so I took my chance.
It was pretty good. You had me for a second. Well, that kind of finishes up this week's episode, or this week's pregame episode, because we'll have a postgame episode coming up in a few days.
We'll rehash the disaster.
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to that. But I want to...
And before we close, I'm sorry, Alex.
Go ahead.
Because we do have some more listeners through YouTube, and I'm pretty sure the podcast listeners, they went up as well. So I just wanted to quickly say, because I know we're running out of time, for those that look at the YouTube content, I do plan on uploading some good videos in the near future. You guys know Steve and Alex know what I'm going through personally. So I'm pretty busy, but once my schedule dies down, things will we'll have a little bit more visuals on YouTube and back to the things that we were doing in the off season. So with the more viewers, I do understand that we're getting a lot more interest and stuff like that, and we really appreciate it. So I'll try to have something for YouTube soon.
All right,
just send them some money and financially motivate them. That'd be my advice.
Right. Yeah. You could do that, you know what I'm saying?
Venmo Jamal or something.
I'm not going to tell you where the money's going to go, but,
we all know where it's going.
It may be going into the Vegas, spreads
Right.
and stuff like that.
Right. All right. Well, thanks again for everyone who's out there listening. We will look forward to talking to you after the game. Other than that, hope the rest of your week goes well. Peace.
Bye.
Are you a tackle football fan? Kick off your day with an episode of Colts Corner. A group of passionate Colts fans discuss the latest news around Indianapolis Colts football. You don't want to miss us. Follow us on Facebook, Colts Corner 1, and on Twitter at Colts_Corner 1, and all major podcast platforms.
That includes Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify.